I never thought one night could change everything. It started with a sentence I can't get out of my head, just one night. That's all. At the time, I didn't understand the weight those words would carry, how much they would haunt me later. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't even unhappy in my relationship, at least, not in the way people usually mean. Life was just busy. Routine. Predictable. And then he walked in. We met through a mutual friend at a small dinner gathering. Nothing fancy. I didn't even want to go, to be honest. I remember sitting there, stirring my drink, feeling like the world had just become a little too quiet around me. Then he sat across the table, smiled like he already knew something I didn't, and suddenly the air shifted. His name? Let's just call him Zach. He was confident but not arrogant, charming but not pushy. He listened when I spoke, like my words actually mattered. That night, we talked more than I'd spoken to anyone in weeks. It felt easy, dangerously easy. Nothing happened that evening, just a conversation that lingered in my mind far longer than it should have. I told myself it was harmless. But when Zach messaged me a few days later, saying he'd love to see me again, just for one night, my heart raced. I should have said no. I even typed out a reply and deleted it twice. But something in me cracked. Maybe I was craving attention. Maybe I missed feeling wanted. Or maybe I just made a huge mistake. I met him. I told myself I could control it. That it was just one night and I could walk away unchanged. But real life doesn't work like that. Emotions are messy. People are complicated. And no matter how many times I replay that night in my head, trying to justify it, it's never clean. It's never simple. Now I'm sitting here, staring at my phone, confused and full of guilt. My partner suspects something's off, but he hasn't said a word. Zach has messaged me again. He said he can't stop thinking about me. That night, which I thought would be forgotten by morning, has created a storm I don't know how to navigate. I never planned to cross a line. I never imagined I'd be the kind of person who keeps secrets, who feels torn between truth and betrayal. But here I am, caught in a web of emotion, regret, and a question that won't leave my mind. Was that night a mistake, or the beginning of something deeper? If you've ever found yourself questioning your heart, wondering how one choice can change your path entirely, then stay with me, because this story isn't over. Not even close. I wish I could say that night ended with clarity, that I walked away knowing exactly where I stood. But the truth is, it left me more confused than ever. Zach wasn't just a random guy who crossed my path, he was someone who saw through the version of me I show to everyone else. He noticed the tired eyes behind my smiles. He asked questions no one had bothered to ask me in years. And for the first time in a long while, I felt understood. Not just as someone's partner, not just as a mom or an employee, but as me. My relationship at home wasn't bad. At least, not in the way people usually define it. We didn't scream. We didn't fight. But somewhere along the way, things had gone quiet. My partner, James, is kind, responsible, and steady. But maybe too steady. We've been together for over 7 years. Somewhere in those years, we stopped talking about our dreams. Stopped reaching for each other at night. We became roommates with matching schedules. And while he never hurt me, he also stopped seeing me. I don't say this to excuse what I did. I know cheating isn't just about what happens physically. It's about crossing a line, emotionally, mentally, and yes, physically too. But when Zach leaned in that night, whispered that he hadn't felt a connection like this in years, a part of me wanted to believe it. That maybe I wasn't just losing my mind. That maybe he felt it too. Since that night, my world has started to feel like it's tilting. I check my phone too often. I jump every time James walks into the room. I keep rehearsing what I'd say if he ever asked me directly. But he hasn't. He's just been quieter than usual. More distant. Maybe he senses something. Maybe he already knows. Zach, on the other hand, won't stop messaging me. His texts aren't pushy, but they're filled with emotion. Tell me you didn't feel it too. I know it was real. Every message pulls me deeper into a place I never wanted to be. I should block him. I should delete everything. But I haven't. And I don't know why. The hardest part is, I don't even know what I want anymore. Do I want to fix what's broken at home, or am I just scared of starting over? What scares me more, the idea of staying in a life that feels numb, or walking towards something completely unknown? And the biggest question of all, was that night a moment of weakness, or a glimpse into something I've been missing all along? Every day since that night has felt like I'm walking on a thin rope, trying not to fall. On the outside, everything still looks the same morning coffee, same goodnight kisses, same small talk over dinner. But inside, there's a growing storm, and I can't seem to quiet it. The more I try to carry on like nothing happened, the heavier the guilt becomes. I catch myself watching James when he's not looking, wondering if he notices the difference in me. Wondering if I've already broken something between us that can't be repaired. Zach's messages haven't stopped, but they've changed. They're not just about what happened that night anymore. He asks how my day was, shares little things from his life, and tells me he misses talking to me. Sometimes I reply. Sometimes I stare at the screen, torn between deleting the message or replying with something I know I shouldn't say. But I always read them. Every single one. And that's what scares me. Part of me wishes I could go back to when life was simple. When love didn't feel like a puzzle with missing pieces. I keep asking myself how I even got here. Was it just loneliness? A craving for attention? Or have I been ignoring things in my relationship for so long that I stopped feeling seen altogether? There's another layer to all this. My best friend, Lena, knows something's off. She's known James and me for years. When we met for lunch last week, she looked at me with that quiet concern only a real friend can give. "Is everything okay at home?" she asked gently. I smiled and said yes. But I could feel her not believing it. I think she's waiting for me to open up. I want to. But I'm terrified of what saying it out loud would mean. Once it's real, it's real. And now, James has started talking about planning a weekend getaway for just the two of us. He says we need to reconnect. He's not wrong. But the timing, it's too strange. Like maybe he sensed something and is trying to fix it before I say anything. Or maybe it's just a coincidence. Either way, the pressure inside me keeps building. I'm stuck between two versions of my life. One is safe and familiar. The other is full of uncertainty, but also possibility. And I don't know which one is mine anymore. The weekend getaway was supposed to help us reconnect. A quiet cabin 2 hours from the city, no distractions, just the two of us. James was excited, trying to plan every detail, where we'd hike, what food to bring, even which playlist to drive to. I watched him from across the kitchen as he packed snacks and folded maps, and I felt this strange mix of comfort and dread. He was trying. Really trying. And it made everything so much harder. The night before we left, I got another message from Zach. "I know you're going away. I just hope it's not to pretend everything's fine." My heart dropped. How did he even know? Had I told him without realizing? Or was he just guessing? Either way, it hit too close. I wanted to ignore it. I really did. But I typed back without thinking, "Please don't message me this weekend." He didn't reply. Not that night. By the time we reached the cabin, my nerves were shot. The place was beautiful, tucked in the trees, soft wind rustling the leaves, the scent of pine in the air. James smiled like it was all going to be okay. He opened a bottle of wine and pulled out an old photo album he'd brought. "Remember this?" he said, pointing to a picture of us from our first road trip. I nodded and forced a smile, but inside, I felt like I was breaking apart. That night, lying next to him in silence, I couldn't sleep. My phone was on the nightstand. I kept reaching for it, then pulling my hand back. My thoughts were a mess. I felt like I was standing on the edge of something, too scared to jump, but too far gone to turn back. In the early morning, while James was still asleep, I stepped outside. The cold air helped clear my head a little. But when I looked down at my phone, there it was, another message from Zach. Just 4 words, "Tell me the truth." My hands trembled. I hadn't told anyone. I hadn't confessed. But now it felt like everything was coming to a head. Back inside, James stirred. I could hear the bed creak, the sound of footsteps coming toward the door. I stood frozen, holding my phone like it was some kind of evidence. My heart pounded as the door slowly opened and James looked at me, his eyes soft, but searching. And in that moment, I knew something was about to break. I just didn't know which part of me it would be. James stood in the doorway, his eyes locked on mine, and I froze. For a second, neither of us said a word. He didn't ask what I was doing or why I was outside so early. He just looked at me with a strange calm that made my stomach twist. Then, finally, he broke the silence. "Can we talk?" he said softly. I nodded, trying to hide the panic rising in my chest. We sat on the porch, side by side. The air between us was thick. I kept my phone face down on my lap, as if turning the screen away could protect the truth. James stared ahead, not at me. "I've felt you slipping away," he said after a long pause. "And I've been pretending not to notice because I thought maybe it would pass. But now, I don't think it's something that just goes away." My throat went dry. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't prepared for this moment. Not like this. Before I could respond, James continued, "There's something else. Someone messaged me." My heart stopped. My fingers gripped the edge of the bench. "A guy. He said he didn't mean to hurt you, but he thought I deserved to know. He didn't give details, but I knew enough." I looked at him, completely stunned. Zach had gone behind my back. He had actually reached out to James. I couldn't breathe. My mind started spinning in 100 directions. Why would Zach do that? Did he think he was helping me? Or was he trying to force me into choosing? James finally turned to face me. His eyes weren't angry, they were tired, and full of something worse than anger, disappointment. "I didn't want to believe it," he said. "But when I saw how distant you've been, I guess I already knew." Everything inside me cracked open. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. There were no excuses that could make any of it right. I had betrayed his trust, lied by silence, and now the lie had a voice of its own. A voice I couldn't control. But then came the twist I never expected. James reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded note. He handed it to me without a word. I opened it, hands shaking. It was a printed message from a woman. Not Zach. Not me. But someone else. The words were clear, "Your husband has been meeting someone. I thought you should know the truth." My entire world flipped in that instant. I looked up at James in disbelief. He didn't deny it. He just closed his eyes and whispered, "I was lonely too." And suddenly, everything I thought I knew about him, about me, about this entire relationship, shattered. Now we were both standing on the edge of something we couldn't name. Two people who had betrayed each other, not out of hate, but out of absence. And whatever came next, it wouldn't be simple. For a long moment, we just sat there, two strangers in the shell of a relationship we used to understand. I clutched that folded note with shaking hands, my heart pounding louder than the wind moving through the trees. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But most of all, I wanted to understand how we had both fallen so far apart that we turned to other people instead of facing each other. James finally spoke, his voice low and raw. It started a few months ago. She was just someone from work. We talked after hours, one thing led to another. I didn't plan for it. I didn't even mean for it to happen. I felt like I was hearing my own excuse thrown back at me. The same path, the same guilt, but now from the other side. Somehow, knowing he had cheated too didn't bring relief. It brought something heavier. We had both crossed lines, both broken something we once promised to protect. I thought I was the only one, I said quietly, my voice almost cracking. With Zach, it was just one night. But I kept talking to him. And I didn't stop when I should have. James nodded, not in forgiveness, but in understanding. The silence that followed wasn't angry anymore. It was hollow. Like we both knew something was ending but didn't have the strength to stop it. We spent the rest of the day barely speaking. We packed our bags early and drove back in silence, the weight of the truth filling every inch of the car. I kept waiting for one of us to say it, to end it completely. But neither of us did. Maybe we were afraid. Or maybe we didn't know what ending really looked like anymore. That night, back home, I got one last message from Zach. It was short. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. I was just scared of losing you. I stared at those words for a long time before deleting the entire thread. I didn't reply. There was no point anymore. That part of my life had already burned out, and all it left behind was ashes I didn't want to carry. The next morning, James handed me coffee like he always did. But this time, he said something unexpected. I think we should try counseling. Not to pretend everything's fine. But to find out if there's anything still left between us worth saving. I didn't expect that. Not from him. But maybe, after everything, we owed ourselves the chance to at least try. Just when I thought that was the end of the chaos, I got a call later that evening, from Lena. Her voice was shaky. I need to tell you something, about Zach. I saw him with someone else. Someone who looked a lot like me. My heart dropped. The room spun. Another truth unraveling right in front of me. And suddenly, I realized, maybe none of us were telling the full truth from the very beginning. I stood there holding the phone, Lena's words echoing in my mind. Someone who looked a lot like me. For a moment, I didn't know what to feel, shock, anger, or just exhaustion. Everything about Zach that had once felt real now felt like a blur, a carefully built illusion. Maybe he hadn't just been reaching out of loneliness. Maybe I had been one of many. And maybe the comfort I found in him had been nothing more than borrowed attention, dressed up as affection. Later that night, I sat across from James at the dinner table. There were no long speeches, no dramatic apologies. Just quiet acceptance. We both knew what had happened between us wasn't something that could be erased, but it also wasn't something we could ignore anymore. For the first time in a long while, we talked, not about blame, but about pain. About how easy it is to drift when you're not holding on tightly enough. About the small silences that turn into walls. We agreed to go to counseling. Not because we had all the answers, but because we still had questions worth asking. That was the difference now. We weren't pretending anymore. I also stopped talking to Lena for a few weeks. I needed space to think, to process what she had told me. But eventually, I called her back. Not to dig deeper into the Zach situation, but to thank her for telling me the truth when it mattered. Real friends don't stay silent when they see you slipping. Looking back now, I see it clearly. That one night wasn't just about infidelity. It was a mirror. It showed me everything I'd been avoiding about my relationship, my choices, and myself. The pain didn't come from the affair alone. It came from realizing how far I had drifted from who I was and what I needed. Healing isn't quick. It's not simple either. But it starts the moment you stop lying to yourself. That's what this story became for me, not a story about cheating, but about confronting the truth. About how easy it is to feel invisible, and how dangerous it is when someone finally makes you feel seen. So, if you've ever found yourself in a moment where one decision changed everything, just know you're not alone. And sometimes, the messiest moments in life are the ones that push us to finally clean up what we've ignored for too long. That's how my story ends. Not with a perfect answer, but with a real one. 42.